Welcome to the Wit and Wonder podcast, a space where we hold the sacred, the messy, the magical, and the deeply human. I'm your host, Maria, writer, mentor, and devoted student of the human experience. Each episode is a soft yet honest reflection, an offering of perspective, and an invitation to return to your inner world. Here we go. Welcome back to the newest episode of the Wit and Wonder podcast. I am feeling good today. I'm feeling excited because I feel like sharing a part of my story and some things that I've reflected on recently that I hope will be just as helpful and loving to your heart and soul in a way that it has been for mine. The epitome of how I even started this podcast was to give me an outlet to be able to share my voice, share my thoughts, put the things that happen in my mind somewhere that can be shared and hopefully utilized by people who listen. I've always been someone who deeply values transformation within myself, and that's something I like to share with other people. So I always have these thoughts and these intellectual moments of where I'm putting together patterns and witnessing cycles and just trying to more deeply understand my behavior and my choices, also bringing that together with a sense of divinity and spirituality and love and the unforeseen energies that are at play in life. Even more recently, I've come to understand that through this intellectual patterning, through trying to deeply understand myself, it came from a really deep place of disconnection and trauma. It's not even childhood trauma. This is just like my whole 20s was kind of setting me up to really learn and reconnect in a way that I just didn't honestly see coming. So it started in a way where before COVID, before the pandemic happened, I was in this really beautiful place of true surrender, true connection to God's source universe, just in pure acceptance of where I was at, loving what I was doing, trusting myself, trusting love, trusting that there were things that I couldn't see that were working in my favor, and it was a really peaceful place to be. And then I ended up going on a journey and moving several times throughout the years, and I was in environments that weren't extremely supportive and were more harmful in the moment. I can look back now and see the beauty in what they were able to uncover for me, because it's brought me back here. It's brought me back to sharing my voice, sharing my story. Although the biggest disconnection that had happened during that time was my disconnect in trusting something outside of myself, trusting love, trusting the divine will. I didn't have the ability to surrender because I didn't feel held. I was in the feeling of fight or flight and not able to really rely on other sources of love and compassion and security other than what I was able to give myself, and it caused a lot of grief and a lot of tension. So this kind of brings me to the things that I want to share with you today, and 4 reminders that I hope will bring you some peace. And the first one being that surrender is a choice. Letting go of my ego, letting go of what I thought was the epitome of self-love, letting go of what I anticipated I had control over, was the most healing experience I think I've ever had. There were moments where self-love and boundaries and communicating how I feel, all those things are really beautiful, although they can also be used as your protection mechanism, and it can be quite manipulative of other people, but more so of yourself, where you're gaslighting yourself. You know you don't feel right, and you know that you're fearing not having control, and at the same time you're convincing yourself that it's you that needs to be fixed or you that needs to be healed. I think that there is validity in the sense of we do have to take responsibility as adults and as humans for our choices and our behaviors and changing those things. Although, when you're in a position where you feel like you're the only one that you can trust, or you have the only will that will ever be able to support what you want, it's heavy. It's extremely heavy. And I just want to remind you that surrender is a choice when you believe that there is a will beyond yourself, when there is a divine essence that's holding you, that's creating a safe place for you to allow yourself to release expectations and release control, and just allowing the universe, God, source, to figure it out for you and to lead where you are meant to be. It's a really freeing feeling. It's a reminder that surrender isn't actually a burden, and instead it frees you from the controlled limitations of your mind and the ego that thought that you were having to do everything alone and that you couldn't trust anything beyond your own sense of self. So that would be my first one. My second one is being held is a choice. Similar to surrender, we can think about it as just as much as letting go is a choice. Letting go and then also trusting that you will be held and that you will be safe in letting go is also a choice. And for me, something that I felt was the most difficult is I actually became extremely guarded and also selfish at times. I saw how my fear dictated a lot of my decisions and choices and even my ability to love. I had all these stipulations on how to love someone based on their actions. It almost became like this game of tit for tat, or keeping score, or just allowing my ego to really dictate how I should act on what I was feeling. And it became this self-judgment upon my feelings. If I had deep love for someone, I would try very hard to convince myself that I shouldn't, just based on the situation and circumstances. And it became a lot more heavy than it did loving, because I used to be a really big believer in love. Like, I was the person that was saying love is my religion, and it is. I forgot what that looked like in action. I forgot what that looked like internally for myself in the midst of everything that had happened and the environments that I were in. And maybe I can get further into that another time, but for this episode, I just hope to be able to flow with some reminders. So that one, being held as a choice. Allow yourself to know that you're not doing it alone, and there is an essence of God's source universe, something beyond you that's willing to hold your concerns, hold your limitations for you, while you allow yourself to just be soft, while you allow yourself to just be honest with yourself. And through that, you can pass over the heaviness to something that's greater, in order to be sure that you're seeing things from the perspective of love and the perspective of your heart, and not the ego's way of protecting you. We can thank the ego. We can thank it for what it's capable of doing, in the sense of showing us back to the light, showing us back to ourselves, to love. That's how it's been serving me. Although the ego is never able to hold me the same way that love has. So yeah, it's a choice in letting go of the things that you've convinced yourself to be true. The next one is number 3, divine will is more peaceful than control. The amount of times that I've tried to be able to understand something deep enough for me to make a choice is way too often. And again, this isn't how things used to be. I used to be the type of person that was very open to allowing the universe and my journey and my divine essence to lead the way and let things unfold as they may. And after experiencing moments of trauma, I just had no faith in being able to trust anything externally. I almost became a product of the environment that I loathed, the environment that told me that I wasn't enough, that it was my responsibility to make other people happy, that I had to suppress parts of me, and the only person I could trust was myself, and that I wasn't doing enough and it was up to me to figure it out. And so I really internalized that and became a product of that. Even if I tried really, really hard, I think that was a part of divine will, ironically, but I wasn't seeing it as clearly and as surrendered and as held as I could have been. But getting here, getting on the other side of years of confusion has been very peaceful in the sense where I feel like I can let go again and be at peace knowing that whatever comes next will be shown and revealed when it's meant, rather than trying to think my way through it or figure out what's next or take action in the sense of fearing where it's going to lead or where I have to be or what I have to be able to provide. So, next, number 4, trusting in God's source universe allows for detachment and more forgiveness. I, for years now, have been walking through life and through my process thinking and internalizing a bit of selfishness in the sense of I felt like I was owed something. For feeling so down and disconnected, I felt I was a victim to my circumstances and felt like I was always trying to figure out what other people's intentions are. And if it had nothing to offer me in terms of feeling loved or wanted or good enough, then I didn't really want anything to do with it, even if it had something to do with being able to allow someone else to feel that way. I was very much in it for what it could provide me rather than what it could provide someone else. And something that I recognize now is that when I'm able to finally understand that there is this source, God, universe, whatever we may call it, I've been calling it God more frequently recently, but I feel like they're a bit interchangeable dependent upon your preference. But understanding that there's a source outside of ourselves that allows for there to be so much love, that detachment and forgiveness is the byproduct of letting go of what we thought we had to know. A really good example for me is that coming back to thinking that everyone owed me something and being triggered in my not enoughness, I think I looked for friends to validate me, to tell me that I was needed, that I was wanted. The moment that I was able to reconnect to something beyond me, to God, I remembered how grateful I was that they were showing me the way back to that my friends have been the people who have led me back to where I am now and where I had been. God, source, universe has allowed me to find myself in something greater than my mind and my expectations and my assumptions. And I'm grateful for the people that have allowed me the service of their soul and of their truth to lay out the bricks that got me here. I no longer have the similar expectations of being able to get something out of a relationship, and instead I have deep desire of wanting to give, and taking care of myself and loving myself has become less selfish and more of a gift in service to a greater purpose. I love the people that I have in my life. Has everything been smooth? No. Has everything felt good? Absolutely not. But I hope that when I look back at every person, I'm going to get emotional. I hope when I look back at every connection I've had or every person that I've met, that I remember the reflection that they gave me, the lessons that they've taught me, the direction in which they were pointing me toward. I truly forgot how much love I have to give because I was so focused on the lack of love that I felt like I needed someone else to give me in order to fill it back up. And I look at it now and I just have some really magical connections, and some of them are more frequent than others and some of them are deeper than others. But there's some where I look at them and I'm like, wow, that was divine will. Like, we were here to set each other on a path that couldn't even have been fathomed prior to our meeting. And I feel like even though the past I don't know, 6 years now has been really difficult and has taken me in directions that I've had to maneuver and find myself within. I think that there are a few people in my life that have always been that light that I was reconnecting with at times. And I forgive myself. I forgive myself for the shame that I held in the ways that I treated them when I was fearful and when I was anxious and when I didn't know that there was something beyond me that could love me more than I could love myself. And so I'm gifted now with that trusting in Source has allowed me to detach from expectations and has also allowed me to forgive myself for being human and forgive myself for the blame and the judgment I placed upon myself for ruining, quote unquote, those relationships. And it just brings so much gratitude to my heart to know that I've been blessed with people who were placed in my life for a greater reason than the assumed reason that I was creating in my mind. So I will leave us with that. I hope that there's something you can take away from these 4 things, and I hope to continue to be able to share them and share my journey, share my story. And if you relate, please feel free to leave a comment below and share this with someone that you feel like is going to benefit from the process that has been uncovered or the reminders that I've shared. And I will talk to you all soon. Thank you for being here with me today, for listening with your heart, and for letting this conversation land wherever it needed to. If anything I shared reminded you of your own journey back to trust, back to softness, or back to Source, I hope that you give yourself permission to sit with your reflections and honor whatever rises for you. If this episode resonated, you can support the Wit and Wonder podcast by leaving a rating, sharing it with someone you love, or letting me know your thoughts in the comments. You can also find me over on Instagram at Maria B Mindset or at the Wit and Wonder podcast. Until next time, stay open, stay tender, and trust the timing of your divine journey. Chat with you again soon.